Hi everyone, welcome back to the TradeInformer Podcast. This time we're doing another video, and today I'm joined by Anton Sokolov from Brokeree, and we're going to be talking about copy trading. Now, actually, when we were first talking about doing this, I think from my point of view, copy trading is kind of not really a new thing, and I was surprised actually that you were saying basically that the search traffic and the amount of interest in it as a product is actually still growing, even though it has been around for a while.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting. Thanks for giving me your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when we were observing if you are paying attention to only news outlets for the past 2 years, the majority of talk would be around prop trading, some other avenues or like more exciting opportunities, right? But then the rest of the industry didn't stop to evolve, and the things which have been established or which were started to be marketed back when, they're still gaining traction, gaining attention from the end users. And when we were just looking into more details and data, just like doing basic, Google Trends or like go to Google AdWords Reach Planner or like whatever, right? And just see for the actual numbers, we noticed that for the past 5 years or so, every year we would see an increase of 22%, 38% as year-to-year growth in copy trading searches, which means that more and more people are, just looking for that information.
Yeah.
And actually, fun fact, the all-time record was actually set this year in April.
Yeah.
April was the
most
the craziest.
search,
Yeah.
Oh. And so is that like a global phenomenon, or is it more confined to a particular region? As in, do you see growth across the board, or is it something that you see is like happening in one place more than others? Or
As for the demographics of the actual search, there are some dominant regions which form I was surprised to see that the UK, Europe would be leading the way in some of the areas of, because of course if we're just looking for copy trading, it's a very limited study sample, so you would need to include multiple localized terms and whatnot.
Yeah.
But even from that perspective, it is just across the across the board.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to talk.
No worries. We've been at the event for 2 days, so we're both tired of talking. But okay, so again, we were sort of speaking about this beforehand, just in preparation for this. And again, one of the things I found kind of interesting is that basically from your end, and Brokeree is obviously basically the main thing you do is tech for copy trading, is you can kind of see how it does or does not work in terms of I guess the best way of putting it is, the impression I got is a lot of companies will add it as a product and they just go, there it is. And they don't really think about what the next steps are and how to make the most out of it. So I think one of the things you were saying is for example, if you're dealing with a salesperson, they might not actually really get how to make this work as a product. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that, brokers don't really care about it.
Yeah.
But you can get such an impression when you're just looking at them acquiring tech, not customizing it. They won't even put logos in some cases, which is, come on, that's the easiest thing you could have done.
Yeah.
Change colors, put logo, that's it. You don't need to rewire the whole interface just for you.
Yeah.
Just small adjustments, just make it look like a coherent service. And then because of how many brokers there are, some of them, I believe, might assume that them acquiring technology is already them being halfway there. But in most cases, you do need to have a team, or at least one person who will be responsible for the whole project to oversee the interactions with the tech provider you've chosen, or to actually build a service.
Yeah.
And this is where in most cases we see some of the companies lacking maybe expertise.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, and the technology is so sophisticated and complicated nowadays that it's straight up impossible for you to just plug it in and here you go. That's working.
Yeah. But I think one of the things you're saying is that basically a lot of the time, the way that it's pitched by brokers is like, this is a thing for if you're kind of a noob and you don't really know what you're doing, but actually there's different angles that you can take with it that could work as well or better. Is that right?
Yeah. So the main attraction, which most of people think, is that, hey, you are new to trading. There's a master trader or talented trader. You can see their performance. It's very transparent, and you go follow them, and you'll learn how to trade. Yeah. But by me having trades automatically opened up on my account doesn't make me a better trader.
Yeah.
Unless I analyze it and think, and I just don't I don't think that there is a case where people are actually looking more into why this trade has happened. Because the majority of success in trading would be coming from all the homework you've done, all the prep work, all the analysis you've done. And then when you receive a trade and it automatically opened up, you haven't done any of that.
Yeah.
So in this case, you might as well pitch it to passive investors, people who are like, we have extra cash, or we have funds, we can invest them into stocks, we can invest in bonds or whatever. Yeah. And then you could invest them into FX or CFD, which has higher leverage, higher volatility, more opportunities, so to speak.
Yeah, but so is that, the two questions I'd have on the back of that is is there a different way of pitching it to someone that kind of does know what they're doing? And would it be of interest to them? And the other question would be is there a way that you can use it in conjunction with some kind of, I suppose, educational method or product, right? So rather than just going, you don't know what you're doing, here's some guy that does know what he's doing, just go copy him and then leave it at that. Go, okay, go copy this guy, but actually, why is he doing X, Y, Z? I don't know. From my point of view, one of the things I always found interesting about, let's say, some of the companies have put a lot of work into it as a product. So I think if you look at, say, eToro or DarwinX, which are probably, I don't know if you want to call them copy trading, but there's definitely elements of that in what they do. For sure, that's what eToro brands it as. And you can sort of look through their portfolios. You can see how they've done X, Y, Z. And the company I was working at before, right, was basically marketing funds. So loads of what I had to do was go through performance, look at how they'd achieved what they had or not, as the case may be, and kind of explain to the hopeful end investor, this is what they do, this is how they do it, these are the risks, these are the kind of rewards. And actually in doing that, you do get a better understanding of investing or trading purely because you're figuring out how this person has done what they've achieved, if that makes sense. So is there any kind of way that you can do that?
Well, I assume that's one of the reasons why TradingView is so popular, right?
Yeah.
Besides, of course, them having an excellent charting system, like an analytical system, is that they have this social element where instead of you just copying signals blindly or automatically, which, there are some benefits to it, but if you're placing a goal of teaching how to trade or attracting newbies and then educating them to be sustainable traders, because why would you want to have a client who's just blows up his account and what's the point in building a brand for that, right?
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why TradingView is so popular, I assume, is that you can actually see, and in some cases, some of the traders are actually live streaming how they are what they're doing, what kind of indicators they're using. Of course, part of it might be private or secret trading strategy, but some of the analysis or at least the approach, what they're thinking, what they're paying attention to, that's good stuff. And in most cases, brokers might introduce educational services or just acquire ad content from whatever agency they work with, and just place it there as hey, here are all the benefits. But when we are just thinking from marketing perspective, why wouldn't you want them to be tied into a unique service?
Mm-hmm.
As in the case with prop trading emerging or whatever. Like all the extra ideas which are floating in the market, they can be tied into this thing, right? Because prop trading is now only used to verify traders, and then like you don't really work with the dashboards.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't master traders use that, or like signal providers use that? And then you're just introducing some of bits and pieces. Here's the ad content, or like here's an explanation, or just crafting a unique service.
Yeah. So what is the I mean, is it, the other question I had, right, was if you think there's an angle you can take for someone that is more experienced or thinks they know what they're doing, because again, if you're really pitching this as this is just for noobs, do you think some of the stuff you just talked about is something you can also take and then you can reposition it as, if you know what you're talking about, this can also be interesting?
This is one of the things like not bothers me, but like it's been in the back of my head for a while now. When you think just from risk perspective, right, of a single provider, of a single random person, basically, and then you are just blindly following them without even understanding which are the indicators, performance indicators you're looking at, right? This is very easy trap to fall into because whatever metrics are placed on the dashboard or like ratings, leaderboard, whatever, they might not necessarily be very descriptive of what is happening. And then you as a new investor going in that direction, yes, you might get lucky, right? But the historical performance is not indicative of what's going to happen in the future. So in this case, it might as well be even riskier asset class as in comparison to something more traditional like stocks or whatever, right? And in this case, I think the industry just should look more into the ways to shape the product and sell it to, said more experienced users who already know the metrics.
Yeah.
And because most of the dashboards, they are trying to simplify them, whereas simplified interfaces are useful to new traders who don't know much. But then for more experienced ones, they might require more information for them to make a more educated guess on.
Yeah, because I mean, you kind of see that, right? I think with MyFX book, there's a way that you can kind of pull out performance and look at what someone is doing. And I know for sure that a lot of people use that service to kind of go, this is like an interesting strategy. Because you can, even on just a very simple level, like you can see P&L, the number of trades they've done on a per day, that kind of thing. So you get some sense of how they've achieved that. I also think if you look at, like, again, Darwin X, I always use Darwin X as an example, but if you look at, say, you go on someone who's got a lot of AUM, and then it kind of breaks down, okay, they're trading this is the number of trades they have per day, this is their win-loss ratio, and even just having those quite simple headline stats, which don't actually, they tell you something, but it's not like they're giving away the secret of this person's strategy. So from the end trader's point of view, it's not like they're giving away their secrets, but just having those stats for me is quite interesting. And I feel like I don't know if I'm a experienced investor or something like that, but I definitely don't think I'm a noob either. So, I mean, how viable is it to actually, like, this isn't, you don't have to do a hard pitch here, but if you use a kind of tech provider like you guys, is there an ability to have that sort of built-in, I don't know, almost like portfolio analysis within the broker's kind of platform and so on?
I wouldn't call it an analysis, but it's definitely a combination or a collection of different metrics.
Yeah.
And just me observing the market, and like it does not necessarily have to be a solution from us, right? But like any other copy trading platform systems, whatever, on the market, they would in most cases provide you a bunch of different metrics. Some of the platforms might allow you to customize them and choose that, hey, I want to only display these three. The others might lock you into some specific dashboard, layout, and like, here are all the stats we have. It's 20 of them. You cannot take any of them. You cannot add more. It's just like, here you go. That's a templated version of for everybody. But with systems which allow you to customize it, I would strongly encourage brokers to look more into details, because what happens is, right, marketing team, or in most cases with brokerages, right, they're working with affiliates, right, or like IBs, or
Yeah.
um, you know, finfluencers.
Yeah.
So in most cases, some of the companies who are leveraging that channel, let's say, they don't necessarily need to worry about attracting users to the platform.
Yeah.
But what happens next is that you will see lots of registrations, and then you might think, hey, our service is effective, it's successful. And that's the place when you need to actually look more into details what's happening with traders later on. Because a trader registering and then staying there just being idle user without nothing, without subscribing to anybody, they might want to go and work with it, but they might have had troubles accessing UI. Like they just, UX wasn't just working for them. And in that case, I assume it's brokers team work to help them navigate. Of course, us as tech providers, we are trying to, encompass this kind of vision into the product so that it is already easier for end user to begin with. But each user category is different, and we cannot, create a unified experience for all the different nationalities, all the different ad levels.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. And in this case, this is where broker steps in, and they know their audience. Unless, of course, they don't analyze it. They don't really know their audience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the points you touched on there, right, the idle user one, I think that's probably, I don't want to say it's a problem across the board, but I think it exists in other areas, right? I've heard that, for example, in certain countries, you'll get a lot of signups and people might even deposit money and then they'll just sit on it and do nothing, which I don't really understand, but that's just the way it is. So if you were looking at this product specifically and you go, okay, this person has come from this channel where obviously they've been interested in copy trading in some way, like why do you think that's happening? I mean, is it a case of brokers are not telling their salespeople how to understand the product, how to sell the product, that kind of thing? Or, I mean, do you see any ways that are effective of converting those people that come in and end up as idle users and then end up, converting into trading customers?
Well, to me, when I just looked at the dashboards and I saw the numbers of like idle users or like conversion from idle to a subscriber or like a follower, to me that's another like red flag, right? Like this is the place where a sales person could just pick up a phone and get in contact with that person and, hey, what are the issues, right? Let's get you moving. Because what the beauty of copy trading for like from a broker standpoint is that the trading volumes getting amplified. And the more followers you have, the more trading volume you have. And if you look at the revenue graphs of brokers, we will see that in months when the volatility is extremely high, they will get more money. And this same thing will correlate with copy trading volume. Is that the more volatile months is, the more amplification they'll get. So it should be in brokers' interest to be working with that audience which is already on the platform, because so much talk so far, or like attention being paid to just mashing people into the platform. But what happens next, right? We can have 1,000 registrations and then 500 unregistrations, like account deletions. And at the end of the day, you are still successful because you have more people registering, but they're not doing anything.
Yeah. But so do you see anyone who is doing a good job at that? Obviously, you probably won't name names, but like, have you seen any good techniques or best practices or something like that where someone who does sign up for this product then is more likely to convert? I mean, is it just a case of they sign up and if you're quickly on the phone to go, okay, hey, this is what this product is and so on? Or I'm also curious as why you think that the idle users exist. Is it literally just a case of like they don't really understand what the product is, or the salesperson isn't necessarily familiar with it and they don't know how to sell it, or what's going on?
I think it's a combination, right? Like for different countries, different companies, it might be different, issues set. But what we've been noticing is that some of the brokers, they like, we want to provide, educational like guides to our clients.
Yeah.
And it's something which I guess we could have done or like prepare them, but with systems as flexible as ours, or like with any other system which is as customizable, where you can literally remove parts of functionality, preparing something or like an easy guide for like whoever is just like, it sounds like a very difficult task, because we cannot predict what kind of things might be there, might not be there. In this case, we might not know what kind of people are there, right? We could make the guide way too simple, but in reality, clients would like to have it a bit more intricate and like more information there. So it's usually a tricky part where finding the right balance, who is doing what. But from my observation, it is both, where some of the companies might literally be understaffed, in a sense of they will have large call centers to onboard clients, or like large customer support centers. But then the people who actually work with the service, they're close to none. And this might be one of the problem, where people are thinking of copy trading, PAM, or maybe prop trading as well, as just an add-on to their business model, and not as a service which they have to actually pay attention to. They have to have a team around it, which constantly works with the users. They're trying, testing different approaches, and because for some companies, copy trading might not just work because they're not targeting the right audience, and their audience might require portfolio management, whereas money managers will be more closely working with the investors, instead of a passive approach of like copy trading.
Yeah. And so do you feel like there's anyone who's, again, you don't have to name names, which you probably can't do, but do you feel like there's anyone who's really smashing it out of the park with this as a product, and you look at it and think, they've really maxed out in terms of making it work for them, and kind of how they did that?
No, they're absolutely brands like that. And in those cases, when we approach them, they're like, guys, we love you, right? It's like, your product is the best in the sense that it helps us do our work easier. It helps us to develop new regions, to onboard new clients. It helps us easier to sell our services. Because, yes, many brokers do have copy trading.
Yeah.
Many brokers do have razor sharp spreads, right? But so it's not necessarily about you having it. But then with the brands where we observed better, trading volume growth or results, or like just performance of the service in general, by you just walking or like opening their website, you will see that they have not a knowledge hub, but like some sort of ad center which is already integrated with the solution. So they're not just, trying to teach you how to trade, trade in general, but like how to work with the products they have. And this is where we just see, like, there are definitely brands which have a coherent service, where you look at it and like, yes, this is an actual service. It's not just they plugged
kind of glued it on.
Yeah, they plugged in, or like they allowed us to go and open an account at somebody else, right? Like at some other copy trading system, like MyFXBook, right?
Yeah.
You could, or like MQL, right? You could use some of the existing networks to bypass a broker. Like, yes, you open up an account with them, but like you don't work with them, so you don't consider that being their service.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And in this sense, the brands who are doing it correctly, you will see it all over the place.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, pushy and over promotional, but it'd still be there, visible, that, hey, copy trading or like social trading or whatever you call it is a part of our offering, is a part of our added value. And it's not just that, yes, you can use our accounts to, copy trades somewhere else.
Yeah. And do you have any information that you can share on sort of conversion on this? And I mean that in sense of like someone is coming in doing copy trading and maybe they move on to another, to just trading regular CFDs or whatever, because I think for a lot of people, they often look at it and go, okay, how do I actually make money from this, right? Because if you're, let's be honest, if you're just booking everything and you have someone who's smashing out of the park, then it's like, is this actually a good thing to have? I think that's one facet of it. And then the other, I think, is like, if you get someone through the door, will they end up being a paying client in another way, or are there other ways where, I don't know, you could just, you pass this all through and then I'm just curious on the monetization side.
I don't have the stats, but it definitely will be interesting to look into later on. But as for the success rate of traders afterwards, or like even while they are involved in copy trading, I was moderating a session in Mexico at IFX Expo, and one of the speakers, he brought up an interesting point where he said that yes, you can look at a pool of traders, and then you see that these ones are doing really well right now.
Yeah.
So you subscribe, you follow them, but it shouldn't be just like one-off deal, right? Like you should be closely monitoring what's happening.
Yeah.
Because when you start to dive deeper into analytics provided by most of the systems, you will see that, hey, this guy has better performance with this, how to call it?
Like market conditions or
with
product?
this symbol. Or like,
okay, yeah.
So like with the FX majors, let's say. And then you need to start doing your homework and looking into what's happening with this symbol. Because now you're receiving the, opportunities shared by the signal provider in a way of, they will enter the market for you. They will exit the market for you. So it's more or less risk management, portfolio management. But you as a trader shouldn't be just doing it passively. You should be looking into the actual, market, what is happening. Because at some point, you might see that, hey, something is very crazy starting to happen. It's becoming way too risky for the asset class I've chosen.
Yeah.
And then you need to pause that subscription.
Yeah.
Because the trader might be fine, but his trading strategy, his trading approach might not be as applicable to the current market.
100% a month, man. That's easy. It's completely legit. Okay.
I think that's one of the things which many people are missing with, solutions like copy trading.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a marriage. You don't need to be there all time for like, I signed up for you, like I just, throw stores
through thick and thin,
Till
like left to our spot. Yeah.
You need to be closely monitoring your portfolio, because now it consists of said trading providers, or like trading signal providers, which are different trading strategies.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, man. And again, we were speaking at the event yesterday about how this ties all into prop stuff as well, because in theory, I think these are two products that couldn't really mix, because a lot of people will say, like if you're a prop, a lot of people will ban like EAs, which again, you could argue there's some level of similarity there, right? You're just using some automated system which someone has created. It's kind of the same. I mean, is there any sort of intermingling of those two worlds? Do you think that growth in one is pushing the other, or do you think there's any way they can interact in an interesting way?
That's one of my hypotheses, right? That with the growth in copy trading, more people started to look for ways to maybe abuse a system of certain, challenge providers, and just use some copy trading system to bypass those restrictions, in a sense of EAs are not allowed, but then can we work it out with the Python script or whatnot? So I assume some part of the growth is happening because of that. I we didn't analyze the correlation between those, and there might not be any, but I assume some part of it, or like at least more people getting exposed to trading, because so many people nowadays, they don't know what Forex broker does, right? Or like CFD broker.
Yeah.
Because they learn about the industry through a prop firm.
Yeah.
So in that case, yes, like it definitely benefited the growth rate.
Yeah.
But what we also been starting to notice is that some of the companies might be, interested in an idea of like, hey, we already have a prop trading company, where we accumulated a pool of very talented traders, and yes, we are already hedging their trades. We're involved in actual proprietary trading. We're like earning money from our accounts, and the next step might as well be introduction of any other money management services like portfolio management services or copy trading services, right?
Yeah.
Because some of the startup brokers and their main struggle when introducing such services is that they just don't have the right appeal to attract all the money managers and all the people within the network. And this is where, like, if you already have some sort of challenges, or like you're just starting out, it would be easier for you to find those talented guys and
make use of what they have.
As a value added, you can say, hey, now you can get access to our capital and to a pool of investors.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that not many of the props have really done that. Like, as in, even if you account for the fact that a lot of them are, let's say, not particularly scrupulous in what they're doing, you would have thought that some of the bigger guys would have found some people and then would consider, I don't know, getting investment from them in the same way. I know I keep bringing them up, but I think Darwinex is like the only one that seems to really have, and I guess eToro as well has done it albeit in a slightly different way. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting point. Like, from my point of view, I know that if you have lots of products in one platform, there's some stats on the kind of conversion rate and that kind of thing. And for sure, there's brokers that will have that information. But the prop one seems a bit of a mystery to me. Like, I don't know if you add that as a broker, I don't know what the level of conversion would be across those two products, if that makes sense. Like, how many people are going to, if you're a broker that has a prop arm, are people coming to the prop arm and then opening an account with you as a broker and vice versa? Because I don't know, if that's happening, that seems like quite a good phenomenon for the industry, I suppose.
No, but actually you did have an interesting article regarding the differences in you paying for a funded account versus you depositing the same amount to a brokerage.
Yeah.
And receiving the leverage and having less restrictions in what you do.
Yeah.
So I assume a shift will happen at some point.
Yeah.
And it might as well be happening in some companies which would just, going under our radar.
Yeah, could be.
But we surely do see more tech providers playing around with this idea that, hey, these old products are part of the same customer journey, or they could be a part of the same customer journey. Yeah. A trader comes here, they don't know how to trade, they pass a trading challenge, which should be ingrained with ad content and help them go through a challenge consistently, not to become funded account with a mil in their balance, right? But to learn how to trade and be consistent. And then at a later stage, more opportunities open up. You either become a provider of your own, because what's happening with prop is that they're leveraging community building so well that many of those funded traders, as a side hustle, they start to open up their own, not companies, but like their own communities.
Yeah.
So they already will become the next IBs.
Yeah.
And they might not necessarily be that interested in traditional brokerage space unless it starts to incorporate bits and pieces of, modern mentality.
Yeah. Okay, so I think one of the things that props have also done well, and which this is probably a whole other discussion, but like I often wonder if props were regulated, would they be able to do a lot of the things they do today? But I think one of the points you touched on in terms of community building is something where I actually think that brokers could probably learn from them. Like I look at some of the stuff they're doing, and you look at, say, some of the YouTube channels or some of the Discord channels, probably there are a few things that wouldn't fly in terms of meeting compliance standards and stuff like that. But definitely there's things that you could take from that and sort of apply to the broker world. And I think you are actually seeing, like as an example, I know Jeremy from After Prime was saying how they now have a Discord, whereas say 10, 15 years ago, a lot of stuff was on forums. That kind of is the medium today that they use to communicate with clients, which I actually think is it's cool. It's like nice to see something new. But definitely a lot of the stuff in props, which I don't know if you could apply it to broker space, is kind of gamification type stuff, like account scaling, trading tournaments, discounts, this kind of thing. It's sort of e-commerce-y, is gamey. I mean, do you think there's any kind of lessons that brokers or people adding copy trading even can learn from that kind of thing? Like, do you think they can take some of those, I guess it's ultimately selling a product in a more fun way, that kind of thing?
No, absolutely. And answering your first bit of the question, right? Regulation, at least the way industry is talking about it right now for the prop, would not necessarily be affecting their majority of what they're doing marketing wise, because when we are looking at marketing as a not just promotional vehicle, but as an actual your view for the business, yes, community building and Discord in general. When you look at demographics of Discord, it's not just youngsters.
Yeah,
there are lots of 30 years old and like.
Yeah. No, I think it's the same. I actually find the same thing with, and I find this very weird with TikTok, is that it actually seems to attract an older audience rather than a younger one. I don't know how that happened, but I remember speaking to someone probably about a year ago who was doing loads of marketing through TikTok, and actually they were getting a lot of people in their 50s who were coming to them as a result. So I would assume the same thing applies to Discord. I mean, I know there's some very random kind of communities, if you want to call it, that I sometimes go on there, and you definitely have people who are like 40 plus on it. So I would assume the same thing translates into trading.
So like you should not just discard the service or like a tool because you assume that it is not relevant. You need to try it out. You need to look into it. And one of the beauties of Discord in particular, or like I think Telegram now also does have similar functionality, is that you are able to create channels, or we can call them tabs of information. So it's basically like bits of useful information, all accessible within the same chat
interface kind of thing. Yeah.
So this is where many companies from prop space, they just nail it. They know how to do it properly.
Yeah.
And getting back to gamification is a very broad topic. And in most cases, people think gamification is games, but it's not necessarily games. It's introduction of game-like features or game-like approaches to certain things. Because when we are looking into research and academia around the topic, or when regulators are addressing the topic, some of the things which we would consider as simplification, just like us making user-friendly interface,
they're considering it.
They might as well consider it as part of gamification as a whole.
Yeah, this was actually a really interesting thing that happened when I was at Free Trade, which is that it may have actually been just after I left, but I think the FCA put out a paper about it. It was actually, I think it was one of the first articles I did when I started what was then CFDs Weekly. And like when I was reading through it, I was going, having worked at one of these companies, so many of the things they are assuming are us being like, an evil corporation and attempting to create a slot machine kind of interface was really not. It was just basically how can you make the user journey as smooth as possible. Yeah. And so I always think of that with something like payments, right? If you look at, say, buying things online now, it can be incredibly smooth, which is good. But then if you're someone who is, I don't know, if you're this 0.1% of the population that is a compulsive shopper or something, that's probably quite bad for you. But for the large majority of people, it's not something evil or kind of nefarious. It's just that the end company wants to create something that's very simple to use. So that always stuck out in my mind as something where the regulator thinks you're doing a bad thing when actually you're just trying to do something that makes it easier to use your product.
But again, regulators are not necessarily flagging it as bad thing. They're just saying that this particular functionality might, and it is supported by research, influence decision making. So this is where the industry itself should be cautious of how they implement it.
Yeah.
Because starting from that many things being already too vague for you to consider them gamification, like as concrete of an evidence of gamification things, right? Depositing whatever, like when you click deposit and you already get pre-filled options of like 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. That's already can be considered a part of gamification. You are easing it up. You are trying to influence, decision making where you don't have to.
Yeah.
And this is where when companies start to implement it, because it is so so easy to slip up and do it wrong.
Yeah.
You just need to, of course, look at the underlying research, because in some cases, which again FCA brought up in their research, was that they were hyping up certain behaviors which were influencing and leading to traders closing their trades later, which they intended.
Yeah.
And this is direct, conflict with what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But then gamification as a tool should not be discarded by brokerage, because it can make your user experience smoother, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
It can make it simpler. It can make it more engaging.
Yeah.
But again, engaging in a sense of reinforcing better habits. Open up a stop loss and get 5 points, whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing bad coming from you opening up a stop loss.
Yeah.
For the most part, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like there are much more issues for you not opening it up or like not setting it up.
Yeah.
So in this case, there are different ways where you can still have an engaging and appealing user interface, user experience, but without you directly forwarding them and, hey, open up 15 trades a day and win it at a bear.
Yeah.
That's a bit overdoing it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it depends how kind of cynical you want to be, but I sometimes look at, say, like, if you look at 212, trading 212's the deposit function versus the withdrawal function. Because I always think if you're basically at a broker, right, the amount that you owe the client is actually only realized until they make the withdrawal. And so I was looking at their deposit is very, very easy to do. Very easy. The withdrawal is not that easy to do. And so I always go, maybe, there's maybe something is up there, but it's actually quite nicely structured, you could say. But no, I mean, do you think anyone is doing this in a interesting way, to go back to the copy trading discussion, if anyone is doing something interesting there where you've seen, I don't know, where you've seen some kind of gamey feature added and they're doing it in an interesting way and it's worked for them?
Well, copy trading by default is a gamified service. You have a leaderboard where you're ranking up your providers based on some indicators. It might as well be just standard performance indicator or like return based, right? Or it might be something more unique, as DarwinX has it, or I believe Axie has their own Axie Edge or
Axie Select, yeah,
for their prop wing. So it's already a part of gamified experience. So you're not just trading to be more, proficient or like more successful. You're trading to climb up the ladder. So it's already a gamified experience. All the dashboards which prop firms have, all the dashboards or all the analytics, it can also tie into gamification. Because when you start diving deeper into gamification, you start to see, you can apply different science behind it. And you can apply in theories of, gamer profiles to it and see that, hey, these guys are adventurers. They would like to see more. They would like to monitor their progress through stages. They would like to see more stats and how they're, working towards a specific goal. Some guys might be, competitive and they don't really care about that bits and pieces. They can be sloppy in their journey, but they just need more high returns.
Yeah.
So there's already more science which can be used for optimizing and improving your services. Why is it not used? That's a question.
Yeah. But I get the impression most people are using it, no? Like, you think it could be more?
Not more, but
In a more clever way or something?
yeah, because when we are seeing brands trying to go into this kind of services, they start to hire specialists, which are surely talented specialists, but they're coming from different industries. They will be hiring people from game industries, from e-gaming, from gambling industries in some cases. And yes, those guys know the psychology of of a user really well, and they know how to work with it, and they know how to make it engaging. But when you don't apply it with the expertise in financial markets, or with how cautious all the regulators are,
Yeah.
that's when you get in trouble, and you see your website on FCA warning list. It's like,
Yeah.
this is a bad example. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, actually, so I had an interesting conversation with someone recently who was actually did come from the gaming industry, and he was making the point that kind of similar to what you said. I mean, in the sense that he was like, when gaming people come into this industry, they actually bring a big competitive edge, because you think the brokerage industry is very competitive, but the video game industry, I mean, he says it's like there's thousands of titles released every day. So imagine if there's like 1,000 brokers being released every day, right? It would be so difficult. So they bring a kind of very refined way of getting downloads, of making features that are really attractive, but it's almost can be too extreme, where they don't have that. Firstly, they don't necessarily understand the product, and secondly, they don't necessarily get the regulatory mindset of you need to have, I don't know, you just need to take things a bit more slowly than they might want to. But yeah, for sure. No, I think the gaming stuff is like is very interesting, and whether or not you can integrate all of the stuff, whether a broker could integrate all the stuff that a prop is doing is kind of debatable, but we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people probably do want to do that kind of thing.
I have a very bad example of gamification in the platform.
Okay, go for
LinkedIn. They recently introduced LinkedIn Games.
Really?
Nobody knows why, what for.
Yeah.
And their pitch was that you can, like if you're working in the office, in some offices you could have a tennis table, and you just like do that in the break. And they pitching it as this, but like on what? On LinkedIn?
Yeah.
With what?
Yeah. I think LinkedIn is kind of so they introduce all these features that make it worse rather than better. Like if you click on a link, it keeps you within the app.
Yeah.
It's adding these dumb videos that I find really annoying. It's like anything that takes you away from the website is down ranked. It feels like it doesn't get ranked as highly, which is also really annoying. So that's probably a whole other discussion.
No, but that's the case. Like if you are thinking of gamification as just us slapping in games in our interface, that's wrong. Like gamification can be, much more than that. It could be more intricate.
Okay, cool. Well, I think given LinkedIn is a dead end, this is also probably a good place for us to stop. So, Anton, thanks very much for coming to London and being freezing and stopping by to this podcast. And I'm sure we'll chat again in the future.
Thanks for your time.